Okay, in this video, I'm going to install a 1 TB SSD in this old Xbox One. It's a Western Digital Blue. It was on sale. And just like the PlayStation 4 video I did a couple videos back, I'm doing this just to breathe some new life into this old system and get another year or two out of it. Now, this is definitely a bigger pain than changing the hard drive on a PlayStation 4. On the PS4, everything's very easy. There's one screw. It takes about an hour. And all the disk cloning is really easy, whereas this is a real pain, and my disk clone doesn't go well, but I do get everything working and functioning properly in the end. So I guess that's a win. To get the side off this thing, it's best to start on the left-hand side and just pop off this one rectangular piece, and then you can start ripping the whole Xbox down. So I just used the smallest flathead I could find, pretty much, and just work around, pop things out. Then there's a little piece of plastic that needs to slide out. It's just behind the little side button. Sort of push it forward and it pops out. Then just go to this corner here and separate the two pieces of plastic. Basically push the top in and the bottom out, or vice versa, just separate them. And then just start working around the Xbox. There's a whole bunch of little plastic clips inside. You got to be careful. I do end up breaking one, but it's not really a big deal. Everything goes back together fine, but you certainly wouldn't want to break too many of them. So again, with the flathead screwdriver, I just sort of lift things up, put the screwdriver in, give it a twist to the side, and pop the plastic out all the way down the line. Just throw it in fast motion here to speed things up a little bit. Like I said, just keep working around from one corner all the way until you get to the front of the Xbox. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you do get to the front of the Xbox, there's still a cable hooked up there, little ribbon cable, so don't rip the top of the Xbox off or you will never get power to the front of your Xbox again. I find this ribbon cable is the worst part of the whole job, to not so much take it off, but to put it on. You can see it right there. And you really just need to slide it out. You have to lift up on the front to clear the cable. It's got a little holder on it, and then pull it back. So there's a little close-up. So you lift up the edge and then pull it out. So that is tough to film, and it is definitely the worst part of putting it back together because there's just not enough ribbon cable there to make it easy. And that's it for the top of the box. I'll throw that aside. Now you could disconnect some cables. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to pop these pieces out. So pull the, I don't know what that thing is, maybe the speaker, take that off the top. And then I'll take the screwdriver and pull off the wireless internet card. Now there's some screws behind the card for the Wi-Fi, and that'll just disconnect a piece inside. I'll show that later. Other than that, there's just a whole bunch of screws that hold the metal case together. And the screws also go through some of the accessory items, like the stand for the hard drive. You'll see that in a bit. But whatever, just start unscrewing every screw that you see. There's like 7 or 8 of them. Once all the screws are out, the top lifts off. Like I said, that's where the cabling for the wireless internet card goes. If you didn't take that off, it would still be connected to the top. So do whatever you want, but that's the way I did it. And I think it was probably the right choice. And then once you get to this point, you can just lift the old hard drive straight off. It's in a little table looking thing, and then just disconnect it from the motherboard. So there's 2 cables and they pull straight off the motherboard. The other option is to disconnect it from the hard drive, or do both, doesn't really matter, whatever you want to do. Now the hard drive is screwed into the little table thing with 4 screws, and then there's another piece of plastic behind it with another 4 screws. To remove the hard drive, you need to take out about 20 screws, give or take. And then there's a whole bunch of plastic clips that you gotta disconnect. So like I said, way harder than a PlayStation 4 that just has 1 screw holding the hard drive in. Anyway, there it is, 500 gigabytes, super slow hard drive on these really old Xboxes. As well, the operating system is stored on the hard drive, so it makes everything really slow. And putting in the new SSD really does improve the whole system. Anyway, there's the old hard drive and the new hard drive. side by side. And now I'm going to go and hook these two hard drives up to one of my computers. So I'm going to switch over to screen recording mode here. And I downloaded something called AOMEI or something, AOMEI, Partition Assistant Tool. They got a few more for disk cloning as well, but this free version that I downloaded does have the disk cloning option in here. So you can see disk 0 is just my regular hard drive, little operating system there. Disk 1 is the 1 terabyte, and disk 2 is the old hard drive from the Xbox. So I'm going to go to disk clone, then go to sector by sector clone. And this doesn't work, by the way, but I'll go through the steps. Maybe somebody smarter than me knows what I did wrong here and can enlighten everybody else. But I do a disk clone. It does look good when it's done, but it doesn't boot. It doesn't boot properly anyway. So like I said, sector by sector clone. It's going to ask you to select the source drive. It's going to ask you to select the destination drive for what you are going to clone. All that kind of stuff. You're going to have to read some disclaimers, hit some yes, okays, and finish. And eventually it'll be ready to clone the Xbox One hard drive onto the new SSD. So as soon as you hit finish, you can see that it's already set up that hard drive to look like the old Xbox hard drive. And then really the last thing I got to do is to hit the apply button. And that's up in the top left corner. So after hitting apply, it's going to do a little lock thing. And then basically it's going to ask you if you want to proceed or not. Obviously I do. And it's going to take quite a long time to do the process. I think it said like 4.5 hours. I don't think it took more than 2 hours though. So jumping ahead in time, you can see that the new disk is cloned. It's got all the same partitions, all the same amount of storage has been used on the SSD. All the partitions have the same amount of information on it in terms of gigabytes as the original drive. So now I'm going to put the new SSD into the Xbox One. So take all the screws that secure it to the little hard drive stand and put those back in. There's a little arrow on the hard drive stand that tells you which way it's supposed to point. And I must say, at this point, I had very low expectations for this Xbox to turn on when I plugged everything back in. So with the SSD on that little table, plug the connector back into the SSD and then plug the cables into the motherboard. Now, because I took these little screws out, I do have to put them back in so that the Wi-Fi connector is firmly attached to the Xbox One. And then it's just a matter of dropping all those big screws back into the Xbox One. And like I said, those are the screws that hold that little table in place for the SSD, that kind of thing. And there's a lot of them. One thing to note, those are Torx bits as well, so you need a Torx screwdriver. So take the little Wi-Fi card there, screw it back into the Xbox One, and then there's the little cable clips that need to go into the top of the Xbox One as well. Once those are in place, just take that little, I don't know, like I said, I don't know what it really is. I think it's the speaker, but maybe not. And reinstall that. It just sort of snaps into place, nothing too fancy there. And then, like I said, this is the biggest pain. I couldn't really film it because it was so tight in there. All I'd be filming is my fingers. But once that ribbon cable's in, the top pretty much just snaps into place. So you just got to line everything up and clip it into place. And as soon as I plugged everything in, I got this error. So system error 106, whole bunch of zeros, 2, blah, blah, blah. Does not work. I was happy that it turned on to this point. Obviously not happy that I got the something went wrong error. So I'll turn this little guy off. And now I'm going to do the offline system update. Now this is kind of a bummer because I was anticipating that all the games would be saved on the hard drive, that kind of thing. but as soon as I do this offline system update, it pretty much boots it up as a brand new Xbox One. So all that cloning work didn't really do anything in the end. So to do the offline system update, just go to the Xbox One support page. There's something called Perform an Offline System Update. You're going to need a USB with at least 6 gigabytes of space on it, and you can't have anything on your USB. It needs to be pretty cleared. And the first thing you're going to do is convert the USB to an NTFS file. So I'm just going to go open up the USB, which is that Lexar, and then you go to Format, and then you can see it says File System Type. There's NTFS, FAT32, whatever. If it's not NTFS already, just put NTFS, hit Start, and it'll format the USB into the correct format. Then I'm just going to download this OSU1 file, and that is the offline system update, hence the name. It's going to save it to my computer as a zip file. I'm going to go track that down in the downloads, give it the right click, and then go to extract all, and wherever it extracts to, whatever. And in that file, there's going to be a $ system update folder. And all you do is take the $ system update folder and drop it into your USB. So you can see it there, $ system update, and that's it. So I'm going to now take that out, and obviously all these steps are on the Xbox One support page as well. Once that $ system update file is on your USB, that's it. You just got to take it out, put it into your Xbox, and then you're going to go to that offline system update. Now you might have to start your system in troubleshooter mode, which I'm already at anyway. But to do that, you just hold down the pair button and the eject button. Press the Xbox One on button while still holding down the pairing and eject button for 15 seconds or so, and then it should start into the troubleshooter mode. And then obviously I'm just going to the offline system update, and it's going to do the system update. Takes a while, a couple hours or whatever, and you can see the USB is thinking hard back there. So I'm going to stop the camera here and come back once the offline system update's done. And straight away it works. So it boots up like a brand new Xbox. Like I said, all that work was for naught in getting the games on there. So this little last section, I have already re-downloaded all the games, so I had to go in, put all the discs in, and load them up from scratch. And you can see if I go down into the system, and then over into storage devices, you can see that there's 781 gigabytes, 191 free. There's a bunch of games on there. And the reason there's 781 is because of the size of the operating system, that stuff. The Xbox One just takes up a whole bunch of gigabytes out of your hard drive. So if I go to Forza 5, now I didn't necessarily lose the save states, because once we got into the kids' accounts again, most of the save stuff was still there. It's just a matter of having to re-download all the games and stuff. It was just sort of a pain. So definitely not as smooth as a PlayStation 4 update. Anyway, it didn't go exactly as I wanted to, but I guess the end result is what I wanted, which is an SSD on the Xbox One, more storage space. And after several hours of uploading games, they're all back on there. Anyway, thanks for checking out my video. Don't forget to like and subscribe.